Okay, so I'm going to get started. Okay. All right. So my name is Julietta Schifino. I will be giving you the presentation. I work at SUNY. We're called the SUNY Welcome Center. We're located on 116 East 55th Street. You could always come by the office, but you need to make an appointment before you come in. Just some general information about SUNY. We have 64 individual campus. SUNY is the biggest university system in the United States. About 30 of our colleges are four-year schools, and the other half are two-year schools. Anywhere you go within the state of New York, you are bound to find a SUNY school close to you. Currently, we have over 394,000 students attending our 64 campuses. However, there is a huge push to increase that number to 500,000, which is a wonderful thing because it means increased access for everyone. We have currently 3 million alumni attending SUNY school, not attending, that have graduated from SUNY schools. And that is also a great thing because in the future, when you're looking for a job, most jobs that you go to, especially in the state of New York, you're going to find a SUNY alum. So we have a series of events going on at SUNY, both about applying for SUNY school and how to choose the right SUNY school that it's right fit for you, things that you can do with different majors, career paths that you can take with different majors. And we also have, of course, workshops on financial aid where we assist families to fill out the financial aid application. We help you get your FSA ID, and we have all sorts of different workshops for covering financial aid subjects. So if you want to learn more about what we have to offer, you could go to suny.edu/attend/events. Some of them are live, some of them are virtual, so you can see what we have. I know this Saturday at the SUNY Welcome Center, we will have financial aid day in Spanish from 10 to 2 p.m. FIT will also be having one, I think, but theirs is not that long. I think theirs is from 12 to 1:30. Okay, so if you're interested, you can, if you're interested in having a workshop in person, you could attend one of those events. So these are the topics that we're going to cover today is FAFSA changes, things that you really need to know, such as contributors, FSID, consent forms. We're going to talk a little bit about the changes of professional judgment. I will give enough time for questions at the end, hopefully. There's a lot to cover tonight, so hopefully we will get, there's a lot of slides to this presentation, but a lot of it's just showing you what to expect when you're filling out the FAFSA. So these are a few other things that you're going to need to know. You're going to need to identify who will be a contributor. Everyone who's filling out, everyone who has been identified as a contributor will need an FSA ID number. In college, the number of people in college, this question is asked, but is not, that information isn't being used for anything on the FAFSA. The family size is also an important question because they're just going to assume that your family size is the same that you put as a number of dependents for your 2002 tax returns. And finally, this year, this is a good thing, you could put up to 20 colleges at the same time with one application. So who are contributors? Contributors is anyone who's asked to provide information on the FAFSA. This will be determined on how you answer questions on the FAFSA. Who is a contributor? It could be the student. It could be the student's biological parents, the student's adoptive parents, or a step parent. A contributor definitely is not a grandparent, not foster parents, not legal guardians, aunts, uncles, sisters, brothers, even though those people may be helping you to pay for college. So there's going to be a series of questions on the FAFSA to determine which parent is providing you most support. That is what they're looking for. but the student is going to self-identify, meaning whatever information that the student says, this is the parent providing me most support, that is whose information they will ask you about. An email will be sent to the parent once that determination has been made. All contributors must create an FSA ID. Okay, the FSA ID, what is that? It's an account username and password that you create. It allows students and parents to identify themselves electronically to access federal aid websites. So in order for you to get an FSA ID, you go to studentaid.gov. On the upper right-hand corner, you will see it says login, create an account, and you come here and you get started, right? If you do not have a social security number, you're also going to be required to get an FSA ID. However, I have to tell you that this feature is not working yet, but this is the way it's supposed to work. So on that same website, you're going to see this selection that says, I don't have a social security number, right? And then you'll see this pop-up window coming out, warning, your account will be limited without a social security number, right? So then the parent continues on. Questions asked at the end of the account creation process. There is only one chance to answer the question. So in addition, everyone will go through the same process of getting the FSA ID account, which you're going to get 5 securities questions, and then you need to do a two-step authentication system, and I'll explain what that is. But for parents who are undocumented, they're going to have an additional 5 questions at the end in order to identify who they are, right? They only get one chance to answer these questions correctly. If you answer the questions correctly, you will be automatically verified. If you do not answer the questions correctly, you're going to have to take additional steps in order for them to be able to identify who you are. So these are parents who are undocumented and are not verified through the system. That means the 5 identity verification questions at the end, they did not answer them correctly. They will be asked to contact FSA. This number is 1-800-433-3243. Any parent that is having difficulty with their FSA ID can call this number as well. An identity verification case will be open for the parent, and the parent will need to submit documentation. The document verification will take 1 to 3 days after an email has been sent. The documents that parents will be required to submit are an attestation form, and this is what the form looks like. The parents will receive an email where it will be linked. A link to that attestation form will be on that email. And they're going to also need to provide proof of identity, driver's license, state city ID, foreign passport or utility bill, or a municipal or community consular ID. So this is for parents without the social security number. Sorry. Everyone's going to need to approve the consent form. The consent form informs the student and the parent what is going to happen with their federal tax information. By providing consent, the student and the parent's federal tax information is transferred directly into the FAFSA from the IRS to help complete both the student's financial section and the parent's financial section. This really eliminates questions that you're asked about your income. The student and parent select approve to provide consent. So remember that both the parent needs to fill out their own consent form and the student needs to fill out their own consent form. This is what the consent form looks like. On the top of the consent form, the first thing it says here, provide consent or be ineligible for federal student aid. All contributors must approve the consent form. Student and parent, again, even if you don't file a tax return, you need to approve the consent form. If parent lives outside the United States, you need to approve the consent form. Parent refuses to pay for tuition, they still need to approve the consent form. So now we're going to take a look at the actual screens from the FAFSA. So this is what the FAFSA looks like, and you're going to start the new form for 2024-2025 academic year. It's going to ask you, who are you? Are you the parent or the student? Depending on what you select, you will see things differently, right? So I'm going to imagine that it's the student coming in first. And so the student is going to see a series of onboarding pages. These onboarding pages are going to be telling you what the FAFSA form is, right? The different roles and documentations you will need, the explanation of the types of questions, and what to expect once the form is submitted. So there's going to be 4 onboarding pages, right? The next thing that the parent is going to see is identification information. So they are going to see their name. I'm sorry, this is the student. The name, their email address, mobile number. These things they're not allowed to change because they're being captured from the student's FSA ID. The address in the state resident, students can edit that. But I have seen many students that are filling out the FAFSA right now, and they haven't been able to edit that. They would have to go back to their student account if they wanted to edit the address in the state residence. Okay. So here it is. It's indicating the same thing. Early experience indicate there's no ability to update the information inside the FAFSA form. So here the student sees the state of legal resident, and here the dependent student, right, is going to provide consent. So they're going to see that information that asks them to provide consent. They need to click on that blue button that says approve consent. And then the student is going to have 5 sections for the FAFSA. So the student has 5 sections. The first one is personal circumstances. So the personal circumstances are going to ask the student about their marital status, their college level to make sure that they're not a grad student, that they're serving in the military or active duty, that they have other children or other dependents that receive more than half of their support from them, if they're an orphan or ward of the court or in foster youth, if they have legal guardianship, or if they're homeless or at the risk of being homeless. Why are these questions being asked? It's in order to determine whether the student is independent or dependent. For financial aid purposes, most students below the age of 24 are considered dependents, meaning they're going to need to provide their parents financial information in order to complete this form. So here's an actual screenshots of these questions. So you see, also you can see, right? You can see up across the board there, you see personal circumstances 1, demographics 2, finances 3, colleges 4, signatures 5. So those are the 5 sections of the FAFSA, and the student is currently on section 1. The student is single, right? And then they're asking all those additional questions that I just went over with you, right? On whether or not the student is serving on the armed forces, if they have other dependents that they support. For this student, none of these apply. So the student is going to hit continue. And then the student is also going to be asked, are they homeless or at the risk of being homeless? So for this scenario, we're going to say that the student says no. If the student says yes, they're going to ask who made that determination for you, right? The student is also going to be asked about their career plans, whether they're going into their freshman, their second year of college, other undergraduate, junior or senior, or if they're a graduate student. If they're a graduate student, the student is not eligible for certain types of federal aid. And they also ask, just to make sure that the student answered the question correctly, when the student begins the 2024-2025 school year, will they have their first bachelor's degree? I think I believe these two are a little out of order. This one should have come before that, okay? So this is who made that homeless designation determination for the student, right? If it was a high school or a district homeless liaison or a director or designee of an emergency transitional shelter. They're also going to ask if the student has unusual circumstances. Unusual circumstances are considered circumstances when the student would be in danger if they got the information from their parent. So the student answered no to all the prior questions. So the student is single, they're not married, they're not in grad school, they're not serving in the military, they put none of the above for before, they're not at the risk of being homeless, but they still cannot provide their parents information. If because the student may be in danger of providing the parents' information, the student can select yes here and continue on and will be provisionally considered independent. And then they will have to prove to the college their circumstances. In this case, we're going to say that the student said no, okay, to this. So the student has been identified as a dependent student, meaning they're going to provide their parental information. So here is when the student is going to see those questions about the parent, right? Are your parents married to each other? If yes, provide information about both parents. If no, the student goes on to the next question. Do the parents live together? If yes, provide information about both parents. If not, go to the next question. Did one parent provide more financial support than the other over the past 12 months? If both parents provided an exact equal amount of financial support, or if they don't support the student financially, select no and refer to the parent with the greater income. Okay, so again, if your parents are not providing you support, or if you feel that both of them are providing you equal financial support, then you're going to have to provide the information of the parent who earns most money. If you put, did one parent provide you more financial support in the last 12 months? If you answered yes, has that parent you identified in the previous question remarried? So they want to know, is this parent, do you have to provide extra information? If yes, provide information for the parent and step parent. If no, provide information about the parent only, okay? So again, if your parents are divorced or separated, you can only provide information of one parent, with the exception if that divorced parent is remarried, you're going to have to put the parent plus the step parent. So the student is now going to invite the parents to the FAFSA form. And this is the information that the student is going to need to provide. They're going to need to provide the parent's name, the parent's date of birth, the parent's social security number. There is a check if my parents do not have social security in case, and then they need to put the email address. If your parents already have an FSA ID, you need to provide the email address that's on the FSA ID. Number 2, student demographics, okay? So student demographics, these questions are going to be about the student's gender, if the student is female or male, if the student is transgender, the student's ethnicity, the student's race, the student, what is their citizenship status, the parent's education status, was their parent killed in the line of duty because there's extra aid for those students, what is their high school completion status, what high school they attended, and to confirm their high school. So I'm not showing you all of these slides, screenshots, but I am showing you what are the possibilities if you're saying your, what is your citizenship status? You have you're a U.S. citizen, eligible non-citizen, and neither a U.S. citizen nor an eligible non-citizen, okay? Really, there should really not be here in New York any reason why students would be filling this out. There are other states that require students to fill this out, even if they're not eligible non-citizens. New York doesn't require that, okay? I also want you to look that on those check marks on top, right? Here we're on the second part, student demographics. And it's indicating that that's the part you're working on. You've already completed all of the personal circumstances for the student. So with regards to parents' education status, did either of the student's parents attend college or complete college? Neither parent attended college. One or both attended college, but neither parent completed college. And one or both parents completed college. And the last one is don't know. Then we have that question about whether the parent was killed on the line of duty. Was the student's parent or guardian killed in the line of duty while serving on active duty as a member of the armed forces on or after September 11, 2001, or performing official duties as a police safety officer, okay? And the reason they're asking this question is for there's extra aid that these students may be eligible for. So then they're going to ask the student for their high school completion status. In your case, it will be a high school diploma because you're all here in high school now. You wouldn't be selecting high school equivalency nor homeschool. And then you're going to provide your high school. I saw this was kind of a tricky one, right? So make sure that you're putting the correct state and city your school is in. Otherwise, you will not see your school listed, okay? So please make sure that you list the correct city and state your school is in order to find your school. Then the student is going to be asked about their finances. So these are the questions that the students are going to see and the only questions that students will see regarding their finances. So the student is going to be asked for amount of college grant and scholarships or AmeriCorps benefits reported as income to the IRS. So scholarships or grants or benefits that are reported to the IRS is normally when those scholarships go beyond the cost of attendance. It's almost like they're paying the student. Most of these are normally for students. Definitely, you're not going to see this because the student is not, if you're going to college for the first time, there's nothing there, right? But later on in your college career, you may see this, and most of the time it's students are being paid for something, right? So if you're a resident advisor and you're getting your room and board, this could be something that's taxed. Or if you're getting a fellowship, they're paying you for doing research or something, that is something, an example of that. Foreign earned income exclusion. So this is only in the case that you were working in a foreign country, okay? If you're not working in a foreign country, that number is 0. So the student is going to be asked about their assets. What's the current total cash savings and checking accounts? This is for the student. Current net worth of business and investments firms. This is for the student. current net worth of investments, including real estate. This is for the students. So all of these are going to be zeros. And then there is a manual path where they do ask all the student the questions, but this manual path will only appear if the student didn't provide consent. Remember that if the student does not provide consent, you're not eligible for federal student aid. So I'm not even clear why these questions appear if the student doesn't provide consent. But that's the only situation where they appear if the student has an approved consent, okay? And then the student gets to put the number of the colleges they want, okay? And again, remember that you have up to 20 colleges that you can put. So I recently realized that the search option on this, normally the student could put the state, the city the school is in, and some part of the name, and a list of schools come out. They're not always coming out nicely listed, okay? So sometimes there's a little trouble. So if you're having trouble finding the school, I suggest you use them, you search for them in alphabetical order, or also you just put in the actual federal school code. And if you just Google, like, let's say the University of Albany federal school code, that school code would appear. You can just Google it, and it's probably faster than using this search feature right now. It is currently not working very well. So again, you have up to the maximum of 20 schools. You don't need to put 20 schools, but you need to at least put one school in order for your FAFSA to be processed. And then the student needs to provide their signature. Before they do that, they're going to see all of the sections that they filled out, their personal identifiers, personal circumstances, demographics, financials, and colleges. And then the student is going to be asked to accept the terms and conditions. And basically it's saying, to the best of your knowledge, everything that you put on this FAFSA is true, right? And that all of this information is being used for financial purposes only. So the student submits this, and it's going to tell your student, you're almost there, but we actually need the signatures for your parents. So the contributors, these are the contributors that have been identified, and they need to go in and do their part, okay? So now we're going to see what the parent views, okay? So this is what the parent is going to receive. The parent is going to receive an invitation that says, the student can't be eligible for federal student aid without your input. Help them complete the free application for federal student aid by filling out this form. Providing information as a contributor does not make you financially responsible for the student's educational costs. Completing the FAFSA form is how they qualify for student aid, including Pell Grants, student loans, financial aid, and school financial aid. So the parent, now this is the parent, is going to log in. There's going to be a link there, and they log in using their FSAID account. So this is what the parent is going to see, that login page, once they click on that link. And then it's going to take them to the parent's activity page. So in case the parent has a loan already out, it's going to tell them what's going on for that, if this parent was a student, or if the parent had another child in college that maybe they took out a Parent Plus loan. All of that would be in this same page that they can see. But here it tells them you have been requested to be a contributor on the FAFSA for this student, and the student's name will come out. So the parent is going to click on that blue button that says get started. And then the parent is going to have onboarding pages as well, right? These pages are going to explain to the parent why they've been selected as a contributor, okay? What it means for them to be, does this mean if they're responsible to pay? So there's some frequently asked questions that they're going to see the answers to. What do I need to complete the section? What kind of information will I be asked? So these are the onboarding pages that the parents are going to see. So now the parent is going to see their identifying information, right? So the same thing, the parent is going to see their name, their social security number, the last 4 digits, their date of birth. The parent apparently can edit their address, but again, this feature is not working, but they're going to see their home address as well if they provided that. And then the parent, the first thing that they're going to see is that they need to provide consent. So the parent needs to provide consent. So now we're going to ask the parent about their demographic question. You see that the student had 5 sections. The parent only has 3 sections: demographic, financials, and signature. So the parent sees their state of legal residence. They're going to ask the parent, when did you become a resident of that state? What is your current marital status? And then the parent goes right to their financials. The first question that the parent is going to be asked is, do they receive any type of these federal benefits? So have they earned income tax credit, federal housing assistance, free or reduced lunch, Medicaid, supplemental nutrition assistance, supplemental social security income, temporary acceptance for needy families? If any of these apply or all that apply, you should check. If none of them apply, you say none of them apply, and the student goes on to the next question. All this does, if you check one of these, it just says the parent will not, the questions about the parent's assets are not going to appear. So the next question is, the parent is going to see, did you or will the parent file a 2022 joint tax return with the current spouse? So in this case, we're going to say yes. And then we are going to ask about the family size. Is the parent's family size different from the number of individuals claimed in 2022? If you say no, you won't know what information you provided on your tax return for 2022. But if you say yes, you'll be able to see what your family size was in your tax return for 2022, and you'll be able to change this family size over here if you need to. So now we will go on to next. Here's the question of number in college. How many people in the parent's family size will be in college between July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025? Remember that this question is being asked, but this information isn't being used for anything. So if there is more child in, there is more than one child in college attending college at the same time, you will need to request an appeal, and I will indicate how you can go about doing that. So you see that demographics is checked off. The student has completed, the parent has completed that part already. Now the parent is complete in the midst of completing the financial sections. And the next thing they're going to ask the parent is, did you get an earned income credit? You can answer yes, no, or I don't know. The parent is going to be asked the same question that the student asked. Are they receiving any scholarships that were taxed in 2022? This would only be in the case that the parent themselves was going to college. And then if the parent has foreign earned income exclusion. Do not confuse foreign income exclusion on whether your parents live in another country and what they're earning in that country. That is not the same thing as foreign income exclusion. Foreign income exclusion are for US citizens working in another country that have spent at least 330 days of the year in that other country and therefore are not required to file a tax return. So that's why that foreign income exclusion is. So those people would have to enter what that amount was. Anybody else, you would put 0 on this. Nobody else enters foreign income. So it's, again, US citizens that were working in another country for at least 330 days of the year. And I think it's made less than 120,000. Now, the parents' assets, remember that these questions will not appear for everyone. But if you do see the parents' assets question, the first thing that they're going to ask you is how much child support you received. If you received child support, they're only asking you for the child support you received for that child that's going to college. Your parent assets, the current total of cash savings and checking accounts, the value of a business or investment farm if you have one, and finally, you put the amount, the worth of your investments. Do not put the value of your home. If you live in a home that you own, you do not put the value of your home on the FAFSA as real estate. You would only put the value of a second home, and you do not put the value of anything that you have in retirement accounts either, okay? So that would not enter here. Then the parent is going to see the same review page, and you see that they only see 3 sections: personal identifiers, demographic, financials, and then the parent is going to sign, okay? It says the parent needs to accept the terms and conditions. And again, it's the same as the student. It's like, to the best of my knowledge, what I've put on this application is true, right? And so the parent signs, and then you're going to receive a FAFSA submission summary. In any other year, at any other time, you're supposed to receive a FAFSA submission summary within 3 to 5 business days from the day you submit the FAFSA. Right now, you're probably not going to receive a FAFSA submission summary until after January 31st, okay? And that is only because they're having problems with all the changes that there was with the FAFSA this year. So what will the FAFSA submission summary tell you? It's going to tell you a lot of information. So the first thing it's going to tell you when the application was received. So if you have a specific school that's giving you a deadline that says your application needs to be in by February 1st, as long as you fill out the application, then you'll have this. The submission summary will say when you submitted the application. And then it's going to say when the application was processed. And it's also going to give you this data release number. This data release number gives access to other colleges, gives access to the colleges to view your information. So let's just say in the case that you were applying to more than 20 colleges, you can contact the additional colleges that you've applied to and give them that data release number in order for them to have access to your information, okay? The other thing, it's going to give you an estimate of all of the aid that you may be eligible for, but these are only estimates. The school needs to send you a financial aid award letter. It's also going to give you the student aid index, right? What is the student aid index? It's used as the financial aid office use this number in order to determine how much aid you're going to get, right? So let's talk about that for a second before we review questions. So how is financial aid determined? So the first thing I'd like to look at for you to look at is cost, because it's one of the factors used in determining how much aid a student will get or not. So these are college costs for 2022, 2023 academic years. College costs go up every year about 6% on average. The longest bar on the bottom is a student attending a private school, and that's about 57,570. The next one is a student attending an out-of-state school, so that's about 55,000. So if you're a New York State resident and you're going to a public school out of state, that will cost you about 45,000. A public institution within your own state, that's about 27,900. And finally, a student attending a 2-year institution. So what's included in this cost of attendance? Basically, everything a student needs to go to school for a year is included in this number. So you have tuition and fees, housing and meals, books and supplies, personal expenses, and transportation. All of this comes out to at SUNY, it comes out to about $28,000. I want you to also notice there's a significant difference, right? For the New York resident tuition is only $7,070, and an out-of-state student pays $17,280 for the same tuition. So you're receiving a significant discount just for being a New York resident, okay? So there's already a significant savings just by attending a SUNY school. The same thing applies for a 2-year school. The tuition is even a little lower. So instead of that $7,070, you're looking now at $5,290. And there is savings, right, for the New York State resident as opposed to the non-resident, which is $9,500. So the cost of attendance, you see that can vary depending on what college you're going to. The student aid index doesn't change. No matter what college you go to, the student aid index remains the same. What the college does is they subtract the student aid index from the cost of attendance, and they come up with the family's financial need. They will try to give you a financial aid package to cover that need. Okay, so that's how financial aid works. That is how schools come up to determine whether or not you have need or not. Requesting a professional judgment. So there are 2 reasons that students would request a professional judgment: unusual circumstances or special circumstances. Unusual circumstances are for those students that answered no to all of those questions that may have made them an independent student, but still are unable to provide their parents information. They're going to have to say to the school what is preventing them to get their parents' information, and they're going to have other documentation from other sources also stating that the student cannot get their parents' information. The other circumstances that you can get, professional judgments are also called appeals, is there's been a change in your income. Remember that they're basing your financial aid application on your 2022 tax return, but the student will not start college into the year 2025. Almost 3 years have gone by. If your income went down, right? Maybe there was 2 people in the household, or maybe you lost your job, whatever the circumstances, if your income went down, you need to contact and let the school know. That way they can make an income adjustment. Also, if you have expenses, not that your credit cards are your credit card bills are too high, not that your mortgage is too high, but you have expenses either for health care that's not being covered by your health care provider, you have dependent care that's not being covered for, or you have other children in college, that's an extra additional expense. Then in that sense, you need to ask for an appeal based on special circumstances. Okay, and now we've come to the end of our presentation. So are there any questions? Let me see.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much for this information. It's really relevant. My question is, I am guessing all families have to complete the FAFSA regardless of,
And apps.
correct?
Yes, everybody needs to fill out the FAFSA. If you don't fill out the FAFSA, you're not going to be eligible for any aid.
So it is possible, though, that you go through the entire process and not receive any assistance, right?
Yes, but the student always has the option of taking out an unsubsidized student loan, which is part of the which is aid. It's financial aid, and it's one of the biggest sources of aid.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions? So I'm going to stop sharing the screen now and see if there's any, in terms of who needs to create a FAFSA ID.
Hello.
One or both of the parent contributors need or could. So if the parents are married and they're filing taxes together jointly, you only need the FSA ID for one parent. But when you're filling out the FAFSA, when the student mentions that their parents are married, they're going to ask the information for both parents. So that the student will still need to provide both parents' social security numbers, both parents' dates of birth if they have social security numbers, and their email addresses for each parent. Now, let's say, right, that these two parents went to college themselves before and they had an FSA ID in the past. I have seen students having issues because the email that they're providing is not matching the parent's FSA ID email. Okay, and it's not recognizing the parent, and that's an FSA ID issue. And the only way to get that clarified is by calling this number, and I'm going to put it on the chat, 1-800-4-FED-AID. Okay, any issues you have regarding FSA IDs, that's the only place where you can get that resolved. I've seen that these are the biggest issues with this application, with FAFSA 2024-2025. The biggest issues are with the FSA ID. Yes, Jaden, go ahead. You can either unmute yourself or you can write your question on the chat, whatever you feel most comfortable with.
Hello. About the FAFSA ID. I have an appointment with the school on the 23rd for Jaden.
Okay.
Would they help me fill out the form, because I'm all lost in this while you were talking? There's so much thing to put in my head.
Will they help you get the FSA ID, or
Yes.
is that what you're asking me?
Yes. And help
I
me.
think I can't, so I don't work for the school, but I imagine that they will help you if you have an appointment that day. I mean, we also do, I think later on this week, I have a presentation also for SUNY that will only cover FSA IDs, okay? In case, also, I did provide my email address, so if you wanted to get in touch with me and do an appointment, a virtual appointment, or come into the office to get your FSA, to request an FSA ID, we could do that as well.
And what's your name?
My name is Juliet. I'll put my contact information on the chat again, okay?
Okay, but also.
But I don't work for the school.
Okay.
I
I
work
don't
for
have it in
SUNY.
the email here, your name, but what about the financial aid now? Because I already give them my taxes and stuff. And Ms. Bentley has it, right? Yeah.
Yes. So I imagine if they've asked you to submit your tax return, I imagine it's because they're going to help you fill out the form.
Yeah, because I had help with my big son Jeremy, and this is like turning my head listening to all this, and I can,
Yeah. It is a lot when you're doing it the first time. but it's actually a lot easier when you're filling it out. So I'm sure the school will provide you with help, but in case that they do not provide you with assistance, you can contact me, okay?
It is a
I
number.
put my email on the chat
What about the phone number?
and the phone number. Okay, I can put that too.
Because I had help with Jeremy and it was way easier and I'm not still used to this. It's a lot to do and I know she don't work for the school, but get answers.
Okay,
Jesus.
so I put my phone number there too, okay?
Down and when after I get the FAFSA ID, then I can call you.
If you need help with it, if you need assistance,
But when do I
applying
get
for
the
it.
form? Because to fill it out for the college and all that. I mean,
Yes, you can get assistance filling out the application as well, not only the FSA ID.
from you? Or
Yes.
from the Well, the last time it was way easier when the teacher was trying to help
Mhm.
and she was walking us through and we get everything and find this time it's a little tough. It's harder this time to do all this and my head, my head not in one place right now here in all this.
Mhm.
So we do the FAFSA ID first.
You have to do the FAFSA ID first.
So when I go in on the 23rd, that's all they will do for me, the FAFSA ID.
I can't say what they're doing for you because again, I don't work with the school, so I didn't make that appointment.
So I'm all confused about it because I want to get everything done before anything and
Mhm.
I think they should help the parents that don't know what to do, help them fill out a form.
I'm sure they're going to provide you with assistance at the school. But I've provided you with my contact information in case you need additional help. Is the financial part, it's asking me income tax paid, any idea where I find that on my 2010? In the financial part, are you sure, whoever put this in, are you sure that you're filling out the correct year, 2024, 2025? Because the only reason they would ask you for income tax paid for 1040 is if you're entering the information manually, and they would only require you to enter the information manually if the way you filed your tax returns in 2022 is different than your current status. So let me give you an example of what that's like. You were married in 2022, married filing jointly, and now you're married filing single. So just, I want to make sure that whoever asked this question, it's asking me about the income tax paid for your 1040 that you're filling out for the correct year. And you're filling out the 24, 25 and not the 23, 24.
Putting in the from the email that I have here, studentaid.gov. There's anything after .gov?
No, studentaid.gov is where
Right.
you go to get the FSA ID.
Yeah, but it's not popping up when I put it in on Google. Studentaid.gov.
I can take you to that page right now.
Well, okay,
Let's see.
because what is showing us here?
Hold on.
It's not saying what they show us here. It's saying a better 24, 25 FAFSA form. When I click create an account,
This is where you have to go down.
Okay, so I'm going to share the screen with you. Hold on. So this is what your studenta.gov, this is what should come out. You see it?
When I put it in,
What do you mean? When you go to studenta.gov, this is what you see, and then you go here, create an account.
okay. Create an account, and it says personal information. Okay,
Get
right, that will
started.
come up, okay.
And then you just need to
Right.
complete that,
Oh, okay, so Jaden completed.
okay?
Josh, go ahead.
Okay. Are there any additional questions? You messed it.
But you make sure your name properly.
Yes, so both parent and student need an FSA ID. Both parent and student are going to need an FSA ID.
You have to double do it?
So the student is needing an FSA ID and the parent needs an FSA ID. The FSA ID, remember, it acts as your electronic signature and it also acts as your identifier.
You have to put yours as your information, right?
I have it.
Here it is.
Okay.
And you cannot use the same email account or telephone number to create the FSA ID.
He cannot use his email, he gotta create an email.
He can use his email address, but you need, both of you need individual email addresses. You cannot use the same one.
No, so that's why I'm asking, we can double do the application?
You have to each do an FSA ID.
Right, so he gonna do his and then I'm gonna do back one.
Correct.
You put it in,
Mm-hmm.
press, gotta make sure everything is correct before you do it. Okay, read.
Username.
You gotta create a username, right?
Okay, yes. Are there any additional questions?
Jaden, any question?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So for the student, when you're filling out the FAFSA for the student, you have to list the colleges.
Yes.
Are we listing the colleges we apply to or only the colleges we're accepted to?
You should list all the colleges that you've applied to,
Okay,
okay?
thank you.
Out
You're
if we only,
Somebody talking already.
we put the one that he wants to go to, no? Only the two that he
It's
accepted.
all.
He can put the ones that he's applied to or the ones that he's planning on applying to if he hasn't applied yet.
I think he already accepted in two, but he wants to go to just one.
Okay, so if he already knows what school he wants to go to, then he just needs to put just that one.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any additional questions?
Oh, yes. Hi.